Welcome to Zoba's Corner. My name is Chizoba, and today I have a question. When was the last time you deliberately broke a rule or a law on purpose, hoping that there would be grace at the end of it? And when you broke that law or that rule, what did you lose? What were the consequences of your actions? Okay, let me tell you why I'm asking. So, as has been the case lately, I've been taking a look at First Samuel, and recently, I got to First Samuel 13. So, at this point, Saul, the first king of Israel, he's now king. He's gone through a couple of battles, and in this chapter, we find out one of the many wars the Israelites had with the Philistines was about to start. Except for this particular one, the Philistines were really upset. So, to the extent, the Bible records they ruled out soldiers that were as many as the sand on the seashore. As far as the eye could see, there were soldiers. And then there were 3,000 chariots, 6,000 people that drive the chariots. By the point they've got into soldiers, as far as the eye can see, that's kind of a lot. Also, it kind of made me wonder who was counting. Somebody had to have counted for them to know the exact number of chariots and the exact number of people driving the chariots. So who crept away to go count to bring the report? Just by that's an aside. That's a tangent. Moving right along. So the Israelites, in that same chapter, if you read further down, not only did they certainly did not have the same size of army that the Philistines had, they also didn't even have weapons. In those days, the Bible records for this particular war, Jonathan and Saul, that is Jonathan, Saul's son, and his father, were the only people that had a sword or a spear. The Philistines had, where they set up camp was like it was an important area where they had set up camp, and there were no blacksmiths in the land of Israel in those days. The Philistines didn't allow them to have blacksmiths. I'm thinking it through here. So they're a sovereign nation, and another country, the Philistines, had refused to let them have blacksmiths. So they didn't even have like axes or all those farm equipment. They couldn't sharpen it on their own. They couldn't make it. Whatever they needed to rely on the Philistines for. So economically, they were kind of at the mercies of the Philistines. It definitely explains how important this war was. And it also explains why Samuel said to Saul, or God instructed Saul through Samuel, yeah, you can't do this on your own. You definitely need divine help. I mean, if you just look at it, you don't need a soothsayer or a prophet to let you know the children of Israel could not have done it on their own. They themselves could tell they cannot do it on their own. I mean, you're talking about an army and a nation that did not have no swords, no spears, not even sharp axes they were using in the farms. Their farm equipment were totally reliant on the Philistines. So essentially, they were going in barehanded against a well-equipped army, a well-equipped vast army. So Samuel told Saul, don't go anywhere, don't do anything, and wait. Samuel had instructed him earlier, wait, so that we'll go to the Lord for help. Well, after 7 days, on the seventh day of waiting, Saul saw his men sleeping away. The little army he had gathered had started to sleep away, and I'm pretty certain Saul was probably anxious too. Like, we don't even have enough literally speaking, we don't have the same size of army as the Philistines have, and the little few he had accumulated were beginning to slip away. So he must have been under immense pressure. However, he deliberately disobeyed Samuel's instructions. He decided to go and do the offering himself as a way probably to bolster the morale of his army and tell them, see, we are seeking the Lord's help. We're not going into this on our own. And then he went ahead and did the sacrifice by himself. I am sighing because so far it seemed to be a thing with Saul, right? Let's think about it. So before he became king of Israel, he had already experienced what God can do through Samuel. At one point, he was prophesying. In the earlier chapters of 1 Samuel, he joined the prophets. Everything Samuel told him would happen, happened. And yet, on the day he was being crowned king and presented before the children of Israel, he went and hid. I still haven't figured out why. I haven't gotten any revelations or answers or theories that make sense as to why he hid, but let's put that aside. And after that, they fought a war where God essentially handed their enemies into the palm of his hands. And they defeated their enemies so soundly that Samuel called the people and said, I think this was Saul's very first war, so 1 Samuel 11. And at the end of it, Samuel gathered the whole nation and they had to consecrate Saul as king again. So he has seen what God can do. And again, deliberately, he disobeyed the instructions that were given to him. Sacrificed it by himself instead of waiting for Samuel. Who knew what instructions Samuel was coming with? Whatever anointing Samuel was coming with. And his reason was, yeah, the Philistines are ready to march against us and I haven't even asked for the Lord's help. And Samuel told him he's been foolish and his kingdom essentially was going to end with him. That God, at that moment, God had raised someone else. Can you imagine if Saul had obeyed instructions? Who knows? We talk about Jesus as coming from the lineage of David. Now, very well have been Saul if he had obeyed instructions. We're never going to know now. It became David. And I'm as easily as I'm saying it, I'm thinking back to all the times when even me myself, well, I've kind of, done the wrong thing, hoping there'll be grace at the end of it, without even thinking about what may be lost. The most important thing was at that very moment, the way I had decided, instead of following God's way, was going to seemingly bring immediate success. I mean, I'm also thinking of the immense amount of pressure and anxiety Saul must have been under. And I'm not trying to minimize it in any way because I've been there and I'm sure many of us have been there, right? Whatever situation, there are so many situations we must have faced that made it seem as if whatever prescription the world was offering or whatever short-term fix our minds had come up with or we've been able to devise was better than just waiting for God to do it or waiting on God's time. I am more than certain we've all been there. Even Abraham, the father of faith, found himself there at one point. He was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Pressure from his wife from every corner. And so that's how Ishmael came to be. Nonetheless, so Saul deliberately broke a rule, broke a set of instructions, lost his kingdom forever. No matter what Saul did, Jonathan was never going to be able to inherit the kingdom. None of his descendants would be able to inherit the kingdom after him. And so those were the consequences of breaking those instructions. And it made me start thinking to the points in my life where I know I have broken God's instructions in search for an immediate fix to whatever situation I was facing at the time. And now I'm wondering, what were the consequences? What is not going to happen? Or what happened as a result of breaking those instructions? Time has passed and certainly cannot go back and redo different points of my life. So I thank God for mercy. Thank God He's a merciful God. Thank God that I can go before Him today and say, Father, have mercy on me. Whatever the consequences of breaking any sort of instructions have been, have mercy, O Lord. Father, King of glory, have mercy on me. And help me now and going forward to always obey your instructions as you have said them. Give me ears that listen to you as you lead and guide. Give me a heart that obeys without fail. So we thank God for mercy. And that's what I'm posing to you today. I'm posing that question to you. When was the last time you deliberately broke a rule, a commandment, an instruction, a prompt from God? There are consequences to this stuff, and I just want you to think about it. There are probably consequences we haven't seen, we don't know. And if you can think of a time when you've done that, deliberately broken God's instructions or gone outside of God's will on purpose, you know that is what you are doing and you did it anyway, ask God for mercy. I am more than certain He will be merciful with us, and that going forward He will grant us all that we need to obey Him. So those are my thoughts for today on that. The reading for 1 Samuel continues, and as always, I am more than interested in hearing your thoughts. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but the chapter for today is 1 Samuel 13. So if you go through it, if you have any additional insights, I am always happy to hear from you. Remain blessed.